All right, cool. So how this all started? Well, we did a video for that submission to Theories of Everything with Kurt Mungle. Shout out to Kurt there. But essentially, how this past conference that we're wrapping up right now started. Basically, I think this good title is Reverse Engineering Reality, because that really seems to have been what we were doing, or at least I'll claim, looks like we're doing. We got a lot of beautiful numbers, but again, who cares about the numbers? You got to have a story for the numbers. You got to be able to explain them. You can always kludge whatever you want. That's totally cool. And we touched upon that a little bit last night, and we kind of went around, and eventually, Wolfram Alpha Notebook Edition, we were running a beautiful computation, and it kept killing my computer. We managed to save it. I need a more powerful computer. But this all really started because I've been doing some videos about a week or so before, and I come across something interesting. I was computing the magnetons, because we had computed the mass of the electron, the mass of the proton, and the mass of the neutron geometrically. And upon doing that, it's like, okay, now we have some blocks. We're using a coherent method, Planck units, which we're going to get to in very shortly, Thad. But essentially, we took those components, we started to plug them in to the equations that Thad had calculated. And I noticed when I went to NIST's code data, the numbers were different. And I'm like, this is a little bit odd. So I ran the computation, but I'm like, all right, it's coming out what Thad told me, but the measured number and the predicted number, they were totally off by, I forget, it was a good equivalent, it was accurate out to about 5 decimal places, but the magneton we had to, I think, around 10 or so. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to ask Thad about that. So I asked Thad about that. And one of the first things I have on the first day of my notebook, on the 6th, was, Bohr magnetons. How did they even work? And it's looking like we kind of figured out how they work. But essentially what had happened is, back in 2017, that had brought up a mystery. It's like, what else is off? There was actually was the Wien displacement law and stuff. We're looking at these different things. It's like, there's new information available. And I feel sometimes if there's new information, we work really hard. We try to hone in on something. We get something so beautiful, so elegant. And then all of a sudden experimentation will throw us a curveball and we're like, was not expecting that. And this is what I love about this model, is because hyperbolically, of course, it's also based upon a geometric structure of the complement of a knot, and a good knot should tighten up. And I think that's the strength in the model. At least I'm going to claim that. Because as we get that new data, we started to utilize the universal binomial factorization equation. Basically, you have whatever your primary action is. So you got your primary action, okay? And then that's going to be measured by your boundaries. So basically, one of the big things that I've learned from that is, at least to what I've seen, you can take minimally 5-dimensional ingredients of our universe as we know it to basically build the world as we know it. Time, space, charge, mass, and temperature. And from those ingredients, and go and Wolfram Alpha and totally try this yourself. Sometimes you'll see angles, sometimes you'll see current, but current has a direct relation between charge and time. And just seeing how these different building blocks come together, we can essentially write a prescription for how to reverse engineer reality. So we have that, and then we have our terminal action. So by basically taking this, I might be getting this wrong, we have this, but the terminal action is actually composed of, just a box like this. The terminal action is 1, and we settled on plus, this is the geometric action. So you have the action of the terminal, and then we multiply that by, what are we calling this? The break-in. This is basically, Thad, what is
the terminal boundaries or the inversion boundaries?
It's the terminal inversion boundaries, or however you want to characterize it, which is Planck. is the plank length.
L sub P.
Oh, that's right. Yep. I'm like, oh, notations. Never confuse anybody. L sub P.
M sub P.
And then that's by M sub P. So plank length, plank mass. This is by. They do the small. They do the small Q, right? Yeah. See. Using myself already. Q sub P. These should all come on me. We want to be coherent. If I'm going to be coherent, I should write it coherently. Okay. So basically, and it's squared.
Yep.
Yep. So basically, the break invergence symmetry is plank length times the plank mass over the plank charge squared. You can put these in as just plank length, plank mass, plank charge, and then if you caret it and do a -2 on Wolfram alpha, or you do, no, that's how you do it. But basically, this comes out to be exactly 10 to the -7. And this was something that took you a while to notice, because as we're going through and we're calculating using these different equations for the constants of nature, when you go back and forth and we're using these different conversion factors, after a while, once you start getting out to around 7 decimal places or so, they don't quite add up. There seems to be a little bit of a difference there. And that little bit of a difference there is one of the reasons why apparently NIST, they're redefining SI. They're basically, in my opinion, this is what I'm taking away from it, they're attempting to create as coherent a set of units as they can. So what we found for a couple of these constants, they cut it off at 10 decimal places, because we used to have a couple more decimal places, but we'd have so much error. So they're bringing it in to, this is what we have a high confidence level to the best of our knowledge at the time, given the equipment that we have. So as these tighten up, we're going to be able to hone in more and more, I claim. And yeah, we went through these calculations and everything, and it seems to be getting simpler. The geometric actions, you start to see a lot of things working into it, whether it's the golden ratio, the Fibonacci series and everything, and it's so beautiful. I feel like a lot of human beings, we've had intuitions to these different things. Like I've done some streams on, the Fibonacci series, and I see people that don't normally pop in. It's like, I find this stuff fascinating. And this is a wonderful thing, because if this is true, it seems a lot of things that we've been interested in help actually us to explain what's actually going on. Dad?